Hello, everybody. I'm Special Chaos, and this is EDM Talk. My guest today is a producer, an instructor, a mentor, and a Christian youth. What would you describe? A worker or volunteer or what?
A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. And he's based out of here in Calgary, Alberta, and it's a pleasure to have him on the show. Welcome, Bryce.
Hi. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. I love some of your promo videos when I was going through and just researching you. I think I've actually got some inspiration for some of my own stuff.
Cool.
Did it take you a lot of effort to make your promotional videos, or did a lot of...
Well, it really depends, honestly. I just put out a video promoting a beat battle I'm competing in tomorrow night here in Calgary, and it took a lot of effort, but time and skill, not really. It was just a kind of a dumb idea I replicated from someone else on one of those TikTok kind of apps. But
everybody keeps on talking about this TikTok. So explain to me what TikTok is.
Yeah. as I guess one of the older representatives of the Zoomer millennial, or younger of the millennials, older of the Zoomers, I guess I would be a person to talk about TikTok. It's honestly, think about what Vine did. With its just short, very quick jokes that people would do. They get more fancy with it, with editing and all that.
Yeah.
But now you can have longer clips. You can have music featured in there. So people who dance will use TikTok. People who, do makeup or DIY tutorials, they'll use TikTok because it's just such an accessible platform. Most kids and most teenagers nowadays have it. I'm trying whatever I can to use my music if I'm using TikTok, because then people can use my music in their TikToks, and that chain reaction send people my way as fans. But I honestly don't understand every part about TikTok. I kind of wish I did, but the further I get into it, the farther I want to get away from it. There's too much cringe on there, man. I'm too old for it.
Well, it's funny. I actually seen some of your stuff from Instagram, or it was IGTV actually.
Yes.
I was watching. So my Instagram game's not there either, honestly.
Yeah.
So what's involved in doing the IGTV thing? Is that pretty involved, or?
I like it as a platform. I'm happy with where it is now. When it first came out, it was just vertical video. So you get people getting clever with the little animation to say, turn your phone. Because you could only upload vertical originally. For me, doing promos of new songs or any beats that I'm putting up for sale, I'll do a basic visualizer or something like that. I'm still getting the hang of it. IGTV is great because you can upload in better quality than regular Instagram. And it's designed more like a video streaming platform rather than Instagram, which kind of just added video as an add-on.
Oh, okay.
But as far as creating those, some of the content I create for visuals and all that, that's homegrown. I do that myself, either in a program like Z Game Editor. It's an FL Studio image line plugin.
Okay.
Or I use Fiverr.com and contract.
Yeah, I used Fiverr a couple of times. Actually, I got them to master I only have one track out. But I got them to master it, and they helped anyway.
Yeah.
It depends on, it's kind of one of those things. However much you want to spend is what you're going to get, basically. You pay for what you get, right?
Find a good person and keep going back to that person.
Yeah, that too, absolutely.
Yeah.
So are you an FL Studio guy usually when you're working on stuff?
I'm most comfortable in FL Studio.
Okay.
When I produce, I've gotten more into the workflow of Machine, having a Native Instruments Machine Mark III.
Yeah.
I got that as a performance tool. I brought that with me on tour in South Africa this year.
That was another thing I was going to say. So you have been so your social media game seems pretty strong from what I'm seeing. It was not difficult researching you
Perfect.
at all.
That's good to know.
There was a million different things out there, but obviously then touring is a big part of what's going on. Were you just where did you all go besides South Africa?
So on that tour specifically, it was different areas in South Africa.
Okay.
We started off in Durban, which is on the eastern side. Closer to Johannesburg, if people know where that is. We did that for a week and just hit up a bunch of different schools, youth groups, churches there, nonprofits, everything. And then we flew like about a 55-minute flight from Durban to Cape Town, and we did the whole Western Cape in there. So hit up a bunch of different cities. It's interesting for them. When we would ask them how far things are away, because we'd have all opportunities in different cities, like 30, 40, 45 minutes on the road for them is like a road trip. Because for us, that's like, at least where I'm from, Calgary, that's not even one end of the city to the other. So we hit up a lot of Western Cape cities, Cape Town, George, a bunch of others that I can't think of the name of, but yeah.
Yeah, so you say that you were hitting a lot of churches and stuff like that. You also talk about like First Alliance Youth Group. That's just an extension of First Alliance Church, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
yes? So,
it's one of the ministries they have.
Okay. So what is your involvement with it with regards to hip hop and the music that you produce? Yeah,
so I'm glad you asked. Actually, I as a youth worker, I don't work for the church. I volunteer my time there. I've led the same group of high school guys. They're in grade 11 now. Okay. I've led them since they're in grade 5 and just kind of worked my way up the years with them and, building a relationship. I know the value of that. I mean, I had my fair share of some family issues and stuff I went through in high school. So that inspired me when I made it through graduation and everything to have that investment back into the next generation, if you will. So I don't work for them. I volunteer, but outside of that, I've worked with other nonprofits around Calgary, which we do hip hop and we do music production or DJing. One specifically that I most recently worked for, I was on a 6-month contract as a youth worker. I would teach either DJing or beat production. We also had teachers who did rap, spoken word rap sort of workshops, poetry, if you will, and dance and graffiti, all of that.
Oh, like it.
So I'm all over the map when it comes to what I teach. I still teach 3 students. After I'm done with this podcast, I'm going to teach 2 more tonight.
Oh, really?
But yeah, so I still teach, and that's actually still at church as well.
Yeah.
It's a program they built, and I put together a DJ program that I could launch there, and it's a great partnership, and I love working there. They provide the room. They provide all the admin for it. I just have to show up with my gear, let it rip.
So is this your primary career now? Is just music? So
currently.
Oh, that's awesome. Good for you, man.
It's a little turbulent, as any art-related career would be, from what I've heard from other types of artists as well. Whether it's production for myself, my own projects, production for other artists, R&B singers, rappers, selling beats online, making more commercial music for brands.
So you're like, what are you using? Are you using like Massive or Serum or Serum rather? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a Serum guy.
Serum is one of my favorites and
I might have
most
to
useful.
talk to you a little bit about that.
Sure.
I need to work on my Serum game too. Don't get me wrong. I put a lot of effort into it.
Sure.
But it's a heavy piece of gear, man.
There's so much to go into that. I don't even know half the stuff in there, but it's useful still.
Warp Academy actually offered a Serum course. It was a little spendy, but at the same time, they broke it down and went through every single aspect of it. But if you're not putting the practice and the time into it, like there's a lot to it, right?
The creator of Serum, Steve Duda, he's actually said, I mean, he doesn't knock on anybody who's teaching people how to use his gear or his equipment or software.
Yes.
But he did say, he's like, honestly, you want to get to know this stuff, and he said this in general, VST plugins, just read the user manual. And I mean, as far in as I have gotten into that, I've learned a lot, but it's dry. It's not cultivated in a way that's a course, right?
And that's the nice part about when they do it like that, though, because they break it down and they show you specifics of types of drums and types of bass and things like that, and how to create it from the ground up.
That's right.
And why you're doing what you're doing, not just a matter of, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
And it tells you to explore, and obviously, because there's no right way of making music, right?
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. But I also noticed that you have like you're giving away toques or whatever and stuff like that. Have you like thought of branching out into a clothing line, or are you? Or
well, that's another like you said venture. I'm trying to make the music career more sustainable. I've had some bigger gigs at youth conferences or other events where I've been able to sell merch. So up until a few months ago, I didn't have any merch. All I had was CDs.
Yeah.
I didn't even have stickers yet.
Yeah.
So I made a big investment, obviously with the financial backing and borrowing of some very wonderful parents of mine. Making an investment into buying merch. I have a buddy of mine who runs an apparel company, does all the screen printing, does embroidery out in Medicine Hat.
Yeah.
So I get to support local through him. And
what's his company name?
it's called Motive Apparel.
Right
it's like
on. Shout out
motive,
to Motive.
without an E. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
A plus. He's a B-boy. He's probably more well known for that name.
Oh my god.
But yeah. So I'm rocking a hoodie, one of my own hoodies now. I got the G on the back. I got
I didn't even notice that.
the at Gremlin music on the sleeves there.
Very good.
It's upside down, so I gotta.
Yeah, no, that's nice. I like that. I got some stickers on my computer. You might not be able to see them.
Yeah.
But yeah, he hooked me up with a bunch of gear when he got here.
Yeah, so I got CDs, stickers. I got hoodies. Hoodies are more. Those are hard to stock because they're expensive to make, and if I don't sell them, they're just sitting there, and I've spent twice the amount that I would on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
So I stock T-shirts. I've got beanies. Those have been going like crazy. If you call it a dad hat as well, it's like just the regular classic curved brim style hat that they call dad hat.
That's the hat that I wear. Look.
Yeah. Shoot, there you go. I should have brought one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I was reading in one of your bios, it says that your musical journey started around 12 years old. What makes that time in your life so significant to you?
I think for me, I mean, coming up, I'm 22. So that would be 10 years ago. If I was to think back to that time specifically, I had listened to music at this point, before that. It wasn't like that was the genesis of all of it.
Everybody's heard music from the time they were born, basically.
Exactly. But there had always been something there with wanting to take music lessons and all that. I did piano, I did guitar.
Oh, excellent.
And I mean, my sister went further with piano, but I kind of got the trickle down of that.
Yeah.
And we had all the Royal Conservatory music books and everything. But I got tired of being taught, like, hey, this is play this song, this song, this song. And I wasn't able to, I didn't feel free for some reason. Even at that age, I knew I was like, this is not fun.
Yeah.
But looking back at it and seeing how just that burning desire for creativity was there, it makes sense that was how I was feeling, because I've always been a creative kid. Lego was my favorite toy.
Yeah.
I just loved getting my hands in there and just making something.
Yeah.
So around 12 is when I really got interested in music production, mostly electronic music at this point. It was Daft Punk, Deadmau5, Wolfgang Gardner. Those were the artists I would have on loop.
Yeah, me too.
Because up to this point, it was all just Christian rock, and that wasn't very inspiring, to be honest. It was good music, but just not wasn't hitting me the right way. Yeah. So having a new, fresh look at music through electronic and EDM and whatever you would call all of the different tones of Daft Punk. That just gave me a breath of fresh air and inspired me to look into new stuff.
Well, I kind of noticed that, like, with Feel and Feel Point 2 from 2015, really felt like you were going for more of that houseier vibe. Do you still play, like, house sets, or do you play that kind of music in general, or?
It's tricky. So with Feel 2.0, that song, for whatever reason, I didn't expect it to catch fire the way it did. Your EDM, the EDM blog, they had a contest at this point called Fresh Face Friday. And I entered that song in, it got selected, and it was based on votes of readers of that magazine and blog. And this song smashed the others.
Oh, really?
And I had no idea. Like, I listened to them, I'm like, these are cool songs. What do you mean?
Yeah.
So if you will, and you want to call that my roots, house music, that makes sense with the Daft Punk, Deadmau5, Wolfgang Gardner thing. But as far as the sets I play now, part of my hoodie is genre chameleon.
Okay.
So that's a term coined by
I like that.
the last beat battle that I won, I won, and the judges had chosen me consistently over whoever I was facing in the heat rounds and the final because of my versatility. Every beat I played was rock solid produced. They liked that, but no two beats sounded identical. There was a different genre in there. There's a different influence.
I'm kind of trying to do that with my Chaotic Encounters Mixcloud show.
Okay.
It's because I don't like I like just about every genre of dance music. People say, you know, what do you play? All of it.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want to pigeonhole it as one thing,
totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's almost a niche market that'll do it that way, because people are like, I want dubstep, or I want drum and bass, or I want house, or I want trance, or whatever, right?
That's right.
And it's just, but I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna play what I like, and if you want to come along on the ride, there's gonna be a bunch of different changes in there.
Totally. Yeah. They call that open format now, like, and I mean, at least in the Calgary scene, I'm not in any residencies right now. I've done some bar and club shows before, but it's never been anything on a recurring basis yet. I haven't hustled on that front yet. Most of my building of DJ gigs has been mobile events, you know, like corporate stuff, weddings, the boring quote unquote stuff.
Yeah, I did that for a while. I got out of it. But anyway, go on.
You know, I've found a way to make it not just sustainable financially. Obviously, that's an important part of it, doing that kind of thing. But also, I haven't burnt out of it. Yeah. And I've just found some ways that, you know, keeping referrals and all those coming in energizes me. And so I'd love to go into a house residency or something like that. Here in Calgary, we've got lots of great clubs, and I've made lots of connections. I've just never put my foot in the door and been like, hey, how about I fill in for you this week? Because I'm confident. I try to be humble, but I'm confident based on knowing my own ability as a DJ, not just a producer, that if I played like a fill-in set at one of these venues, that it would be good for me, and it would be a good start of a relationship for a recurring spot or something like that.
So have you ever done like a festival or anything like that? Is that
not exactly when you think of the EDM terms of festival? I haven't done anything like that.
I've seen you on some on a stage outdoors for some of your pictures anyway, so that's kind of what made me think that anyway. So that what you're referring to, I believe, this summer was technically a festival. It's called No Greater Love. Okay. I was rocking the stage with a rapper friend of mine. I met Messenger. He's from Winnipeg. Okay. Normally his DJ does all his shows with him out middle of Canada, Midwest, if you will. So he needed a DJ. We connected and we rocked that stage together. Weather was horrible, but it's a Christian music festival. So definitely that festival vibe. I was actually, I guess now that I think about it, the first year of them doing it here in Calgary, there was Multiculturalism Day. Okay. And so I was a part of a dance crew called Antics, another nonprofit here in Calgary. And I rocked the stage with them, playing some music, getting some beats going. Yeah. And yeah, I've been on festival stages and all that, but as far as now that I say that, Olympic Plaza downtown, I rocked that 2 days this summer. Awesome. So, awesome. Yeah, it's all stuff that I think of, but even as I'm recalling it to you, I'm like, oh wait, then there was this, but so no, nothing like Badlands or Astral Harvest or any of those other ones there. Yeah. I've not been on those stages yet. I'd like to though. Yeah. Just got to put some applications out there. It seems like you got a big enough resume that they're going to take you on. You've got music of your own. Seems to be one of the big things these days is if you have, 3 to 5 tracks at least, released, then they'll start considering you a lot more seriously anyway, right? That's good to know. But no, absolutely. Like I say, I have a lot of connections with people that are in festivals. If you're interested, I can definitely hook you up with some people. Yes. For sure. But you talk about God playing a role in helping change your life. Has religion helped or influenced you in the creation of your music? Do you feel? As a Christian, as a believer, it's hard to
have my cake and eat it too, essentially in there, because in the EDM, even in music in general, what's glorified in the music world is the image of success, which is attached to worldly things, right? Like, I got the best car, I got the nicest watch, I got all this. So for me, I've had to check myself a lot. I guess to answer your question more specifically, my faith's role in my life has really been more of an inspiration. You know, I believe God created, and he created us to create. Just because people don't feel creative. Yeah. I even think things as basic as like your admin tasks and paperwork and organizing stuff, that's creative. Yeah. It's just creative in a different way. Yeah. Right? Not everybody can be a musician, not everybody can be a visual artist unless you put some time into practicing that.
Oh, absolutely.
But so that's where my inspiration comes from. I feel I'm creative because I was created that way. As far as inspiring my music, my album Isaac, that's kind of a testimony of my life. Last year, I nearly died of heart failure. I've had heart issues my entire life, and God's been good in that and blessed me with a healthy and happy life, and my family with peace in knowing that this is the stuff that I deal with every day. It's behind the scenes. You don't always know if something's going wrong. But they've had peace in knowing that, God's taking care of me, and when it's time, it's time.
Well, you mentioned that in the middle of Isaac, one of your most recent releases here, you talked about that real threat that you sustained. Can you explain to people what third-degree heart lock is?
Yeah.
That's not familiar with the whole situation.
For sure. Since I was a baby, I've had congenital. Wow, my brain is going a mile a minute right now. Congenital heart block.
Yes. Okay.
So since I was a baby, 2 weeks in the hospital, they couldn't figure out what was wrong. Finally pinpointed that as the issue, and this was 97. So it was not unheard of. It wasn't impossible, but to have a pacemaker put into a newborn baby was pretty unprecedented, at least in Alberta.
Yes.
So, third degree, wow, I can't talk. Congenital heart block. It's a mouthful for sure. What that means is there's your sections of your heart. And for me, the area that's affected for me is my lower left ventricle. And the heart block essentially is stopping all of those sections from communicating.
Oh, okay.
So one area would beat when it goes like bum, bum. They would be on separate rhythms. So it'd be like bum, 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 bum. Like it just, that's maybe not the most scientific way to explain it.
I hear what you're saying.
But that's how it is. And I've lived with that my whole life. I've never had to adjust my life to be different than any other kid growing up. I could play sports. I could do all that stuff. And other than having scars on my body from the pacemaker in different locations and, kids looking at me funny, like, oh, why you got scars on your chest? It actually made me cooler for a little bit. But yeah, the kid with the scars.
He's a badass.
Yeah. Even though that's never been my persona. But that all culminated to last year's events. Every 6 months with this, I've had to have like checkups and everything. They check on the device, and it was just normal life for me. I never felt anything different. But one time, I think this would have been January, February last year, 2018, they were noticing something was different. Something was up, and they couldn't pinpoint what it was. They didn't know if I was at risk for a stroke, so they, of course, test for all that stuff. They see, okay, there's no blockage there. There's no risk for a stroke. Then what's the problem? Yeah. What's going on here? So tons of testing, tons and tons, different specialists all over Calgary. Thank goodness for Canada and Alberta's healthcare.
Absolutely, yeah.
Specifically Alberta. There's some great institutions here for heart.
Amazing doctors too, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I will never forget the impact that they've had on my life. But lots of testing. And they finally discover what's happened. And because I've had a pacemaker my whole life, 1 out of 3 patients who have a pacemaker, this might not be an exact stat, but this is what I remember from what they told me. 1 out of 3 pacemaker patients will have their heart weakened by the device because it's a muscle, essentially. If the pacemaker is beating and sending the signal that your heart's supposed to send to the other areas, your heart can get weaker.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. My heart was getting weaker and weaker, and because it wasn't able to push out enough blood, they call it an ejection fraction, it was going down and down and down. For a normal healthy person, that's supposed to be about 65%.
Okay.
By the time they finally put a plan into place and had concrete, hey, this is what's happening and this is what we need to do, I was at 10% function.
Oh, wow.
So my heart was getting larger and larger.
I'd imagine it was pretty hard to even get around or do anything. Or
At first, I didn't feel anything.
Really?
As it progressed and as we figured out what was going on and they started putting me on like a preemptive medication to help manage that, then I felt it.
Oh, really?
And I guess either my body was feeling it, but since it was so normal, everything just felt normal. I was more tired. The bags under my eyes were bigger. It took a huge toll on my body, and I didn't even know it was happening.
Yeah.
Because it was a slow progression. But then the pills really highlighted that when I wasn't using them. So, long story short, get the operation, pull out every piece of pacemaker lead, everything that I had, and they're like, you know what, we need to put a more powerful unit in here. If this is the case, we need to have a defibrillator installed. So this pacemaker I have now has a defibrillator built into it. So,
That's crazy.
you know, if I'm ever out of rhythm or something like that, you know, it'd be nice to have that for beat matching, hey? But
it'd be nice to be out in the crowd for some people. Just
yeah.
bad beat.
Yeah. But man, it didn't all go beautifully though.
Yeah.
This surgery was supposed to take 5-6 hours.
Okay.
For me, it ended up taking, by the time I got out, 10 or 11.
Oh, okay.
And about 7 hours into this surgery, because my heart was so weak, so enlarged, and I was under anesthetic for longer than I was supposed to be,
Okay.
my heart failed. And my lungs, because my heart wasn't pumping, my lungs filled with fluid and collapsed. And
Wow.
I was still under surgery, so I would have just gone. If I had passed and been done there, I wouldn't have felt any pain. I would have been done. But meanwhile, my family out in the lobby, they have no idea what's going on. They're wondering why it's taking so long and not getting an update on anything. Thankfully, the doctors stabilized things and they defibrillated me, brought me back in being knocked out by the anesthetic, finished the operation. They had to pull me out of anesthetic as fast as they could. So that's the most traumatic part of it for me when I remember waking up from that surgery. Because usually they let you gracefully wake up, let the anesthetic wear off, test your fingers, your reflexes.
Yeah. They're just like, up.
No, they had to.
Wow,
like they had already pulled the mask off. They had a tube in my throat for the anesthetic and I think a camera as well for whatever reason. And they had just been pulling that stuff out. And I had a moment of like that slow eye opening, you know, your stereotypical anesthetic wake up, but I couldn't breathe.
Yeah, just hoping you're not waking up during the surgery kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
I couldn't-
when you hear those horror stories.
Oh man.
But,
and then they just knock you out again. But I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
So that was traumatic. And that just, even now, it gives me chills thinking about it because
It gives me chills just hearing about it.
I can't tell them anything. My arms are down. I can't signal anything. And so thankfully they noticed I was having trouble. And they gave me oxygen for a little bit. Still couldn't fully breathe. Do it again. I don't remember that to going out to the aftercare, after post-op care.
Okay.
So I might have blacked out then. But either way, everything turned out fine. Long recovery over the next 3 days in the hospital, getting everything back to normal so I could, you know, take care of myself. And then a longer 6-week recovery at home, not being able to work or drive for 4 weeks. 6 weeks in
that's
total,
tough.
being at home, you're left with your thoughts. You get to a low dark place when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's the rundown on
that's
my
that
heart.
story. Yeah, wow. Well, it seems like it's so like your first release I was able to find was Never Forget You from 2013.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
you've changed a lot in your style from that point.
Oh man.
So do you feel like your health issues correlate to that in any way? Like, or is it just you were just a young kid or what? What?
It's funny you bring this song up. Again, that was an inspiration of that trance progressive house kind of stuff that I was into at that time.
Oh, okay.
So I definitely was just a kid making the music. That was at that time probably one of the best pieces of music that I had made. In my young opinion.
I didn't find it to be bad at
It's
all.
it's now I look back, but
Yes.
coming back to your question, I've changed quite a bit, not just in style, but in ability, and more of my music has been less of your typical electronic music. I've made less house. I've not branched into dubstep the way I always wanted to. I've combined what I've learned in making EDM to tell a story. So with Isaac, it was a story from front to back, from track 1 to 10 is the story of finding things out about my heart. Going through, halfway through is the surgery. Song 4 is to my parents, specifically my mom, because there's a Bible verse attached to that, but about letting me go and just trusting everything's going to be okay. Because I was scared, they were scared. Going through the album is me then making a recovery and finding a new purpose in this core life crisis I had.
I felt the journey as I was listening to it. Honestly, it was excellent. You did a very good job.
Thank you.
Very good job.
Thank you very much.
But so going back to just like the youth group and stuff that you work with, so have you had any of these kids? You say some of them are in grade 11 now, even. Like,
that's right.
Have they been inspirations to you, or have they taught you anything?
Oh my goodness, they have taught me a lot. When it comes down to it, it's kind of one of those hindsight situations, you know? And what better way to see something that you went through in your teens than see it through somebody else who's going through the same thing at that age.
Yeah.
And now you have the benefit of you've already gone through it. You knew what you did. So in a way, if I'm giving them advice, I see how they apply it, or I see how they don't apply it, and I see kind of where I went wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they've taught me a lot about not just youth culture and, you know, this new generation that's coming up, but they've also inspired me in seeing just how much more unified they are. I've not seen really any cases of, you know, bullying, classroom, or, you know, your classic recess yard bullying that you would see back when I was a kid.
It
or
was pretty typical when I was younger. Too,
it exists more in like the digital space nowadays.
Oh, that's almost worse because there's no escape from it, as they say, right?
Yeah, but as far as these boys that I've worked with specifically, there's a lot of unity there, and they're holding each other accountable. They're checking in. I don't really, on a daily basis, I'm not messaging them all just to see how they're doing. The boys are looking after that themselves, and checking in on each other. Yeah. And that's encouraging for me to see that, because I know how valuable that is with the guys that I hang out with at my age now, continued from high school with them, and just had that accountability and that connection. So learning how that looks at their age. Is also
that's awesome. I wish I had somebody like you when I was a teenager.
Thanks.
But anyway, let's get back to more about music anyway.
Sure.
So you describe yourself as a scratch DJ as well. I've seen in a lot of your pictures, like your hands on tables and stuff like that. But when I was listening to the album, I didn't really hear a lot of the scratch aspects to it. Is that something that you mainly say for performance, or?
Yeah, there's only one song on the album that I had any scratching on.
Okay.
And that was called Cloud Walker. For me, when I was making that album, none of the vibe of it really seemed to fit with having a scratch in there, except for that one song. When it comes down to scratching, and I'll do it live. I'll go to scratch jams. More of what I'm wanting to get into with performance involves the scratching, because that's a key component of my ability. But it's not. It doesn't make me any. It doesn't increase my value as an artist anyway if I'm trying to tell a story.
Yes.
You know, we found some creative ways in different crews that I've been a part of where we've interjected all of the different elements of hip hop, scratch being one of them. But as of right now, my live show, if I'm doing a live show or just a DJ set, it's kind of a one-off thing. I love scratching, and I'm trying to get better at it as much as I can so I can eventually do like a freestyle competition with Red Bull, or the Goldie Awards. If you've heard of them, A-Track's new DJ competition.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, A-Track does it. I think this is its second or third time through now. He does a beat battle as well as a DJ routine battle. Yeah. So that's kind of where I want to go. That's stuff I'm working on. I'm always trying to train on the scratch.
So were you saying that you do like finger drumming and stuff too at the beginning? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, with machine.
Yeah. Oh, excellent.
Again, with scratching and with finger drumming, I'm not where it's at where that's going to be my sole live show.
But they're awesome aspects of the talents that are not required, but that are definitely an asset to anybody who's working at it, right?
Totally.
So, so what would you like? What would you give for advice to somebody who is aspiring to get to that point where they're doing what you're doing now?
Roll up your sleeves. Don't be afraid to get your hands in there. And what I like, just dive in. If you're more of a visual or auditory learner, there's so many resources out there, and it's easier now than ever to get into whether it's creation of music or DJing. It's all evolved. Technology has gone so much further than it did when I was getting into DJing or music production. So it's more accessible than ever. You can't fault yourself for trying and making something that's absolutely garbage. And even if you know it or don't know it at the time, it's part of the process. Yeah. It's all part of that organic growth as an artist. Yeah. I mean, you can't expect someone like Pablo Picasso or whatever. You look at if they even had any of their first work still around, it's not going to be perfect. It's a process of becoming an artist. It's not just, oh, I'm an artist now, like Tobias Funke, if you've ever seen Arrested Development. But
well, yeah, so you're like I say, it seems like you've got a lot of things going on in a lot of different aspects all over the internet. Like you've got years and years younger than me, so you're fortunate. I grew up in it, but not near to the extent. Sure. Like I was there when the Apple computer was a box that was this big.
There you go.
You know, so that was our first computer. But but I noticed that you're like you cross promote on a bunch of different platforms. Like I seen what was it now? No Compromise on YouTube.
Yep.
On Bandcamp. Sorry. I gotta read this again. I got a bunch of stuff from Bandcamp. Then I'm finding No Compromise on YouTube, and I'm just curious if there was a method to your distribution. That's what I'm trying to get
out. Currently, I am fully independent. Okay. So I release everything on my own. Never Forget You. Now to bring it back up, that was the only track up to this date that I have put out with a label.
Oh, okay.
When I made it, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I had submitted it to a few labels. Didn't expect really to hear anything back because I was used to not hearing anything back. And this label, Wolf Rage Recordings, I won't speak positive or negative of them on air, but they reached out and they wanted to release a song, so I signed my first song away, and had that release happen. Buddy of mine, Joe Hickey, Drip Graphics, did the art for it, and it was a release, and it's been on YouTube, it's been all over. But since then, since I have changed as an artist and changed my style and everything, I've distanced myself from that.
So did you do the art for the jacket cover for Isaac yourself?
Yep. Yeah, I do a lot of visual whenever I can. I try to be as involved in the visual process as I can, especially when it came to Isaac. This story being so connected with my heart and my journey, having the visual of half my face and half the geometric heart design, it spoke to me in that idea, and creating that. I needed to create all of the art for that. Yeah. And any other upcoming releases I have, other singles I've done, it's really just been cool creative art. Nothing up until Isaac and my upcoming project has had a specific message that I've conveyed through visuals, but creating that has been an essential part for me in expressing the project's values and the motifs, if you will, right?
Yeah.
The story. So.
I'm kind of jumping all over the place here, going back and forth between things, but
so am I.
But so going back to like how you do scratching, you're doing the finger drumming, and like you say, you're also a pianist and a guitarist. Just so like you're really walking on all. Do you freestyle rap or anything like that, or
no?
No, that one's not on the resume.
No.
Do you sing?
So I've sung on a few songs of mine. I've never had vocal training. Okay. I know I don't sing live because what you hear on my songs like Isaac or Shelter, a single I put out not long ago, not No Compromise, that's a sampled vocal. But any song that I've sung on, I've known it's out of key, but it's my project and I wanted to express it with my voice. Oh, okay. So I've tuned it and I've keyed it the way that I wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, a software advantage that we have nowadays that 10 years ago would have been way more expensive to do or wasn't accessible to a starter like me or a beginner at that time, right? Yeah. So I don't sing live. That's a goal eventually someday if music keeps going the way it is now and I keep getting blessed with opportunities. I'd love to take vocal lessons and be able to sing better on my own songs as well as perform better. Yeah. In my eyes, better. It doesn't qualify me more or less as an artist, but rap, nope. Tried, cringed myself out too much. Yeah. I've been to rap ciphers and all that, not rapping myself, but mostly just going there to meet some other rappers here in Calgary. We have a lot of up and coming, not just rappers themselves, but crews and Cypher Club. Shout out Zoe Z the Free. There's a few. There's one called Beat of the Week. Okay. There's other things at 10 at 10, another Calgary-based hip hop and events crew. They just put together so many things and programs. So I show up to those. I either bring my machine, play beats live while they're rapping, or all that. So I've been in the hip hop scene. I've been there. Love it. Love the people. It's pretty genuine here in Calgary. But I've not attempted rapping seriously.
So this musical inclination, like, is that something that runs in the family? You say your sister was into it. Like, is this something your parents were musically inclined as well?
It's actually, it goes back a long ways. I mean, of course, every one of my immediate family has played an instrument, all that. It's never been a career for anybody as far as I know. I've not looked back into the family history, but it started for me because my dad, my grandma, who's now passed, rest in peace, her and my grandpa, they owned a music store in Red Deer when my dad was growing up. And that was successful for them. Unfortunately, they closed it eventually, but one of the relics of that shop was a Technics keyboard. 88 key. I think it's from I looked it up. It's from 1973.
Oh, cool. That thing's probably actually worth something.
It's worth quite a bit sentimentally as well. And that was one of the things that I fought when my parents divorced. I fought to keep that myself. Oh, okay. Because my dad could have kept it. I don't know if he could have taken it with him where he is now. But I fought to keep it. both parents were okay with it. It's in my studio, and that's my main. If I'm running MIDI and I want to play expressively, it's got weighted keys, whereas most MIDI keyboards are just the cheap.
I bought a cheap one, and I wanted it because I'm just learning piano now, and I found it was good for if I want to travel or whatever. Then I can still keep up with my practice. But like you say, I have a Motif XF8 that's it's such a difference. Like you don't get the finger fatigue like you do with the Motif, but you have to be able to do that. You have to understand and what creates the tonality, and then the change going to an actual piano. It's just like, holy, these things are so heavy.
Oh my goodness, right? Yeah. And you're pushing down on the keys and you're like, why is it so quiet?
Either that or it's just thundering through the whole.
Oh man, it's one or the other. Yeah. But so that piano has a lot of meaning. That's how I learned to play piano on that, and stayed with us the whole way.
How about as far as DJing and scratching and stuff like that? Did you start on vinyl, or were you...
I started learning on vinyl.
Okay, yeah.
I think at the time when I was 11 or 12 and I got into DJing and music production, I had a paper route.
Okay.
So I had some cash coming in, a lot of cash for a guy that age.
Yeah.
Bought my own stereo, bought an iPod,
wow.
Eventually got my own laptop, and then this is when I was more into the music. So as any beginner does, they torrent software.
No,
never done that.
I never did that. No, that's against the law.
I didn't do that ever. But as of now, I own my stuff.
Yes, honestly, I go out of my way nowadays to like if there's an artist that I like, they have all their stuff on SoundCloud that you can just download, right? Like free download if you get a like or whatever.
Yep.
If they give an option of like donating to them somewhere, if I download 10 of your songs, I'm gonna send you $20
Totally.
Because and that's honestly that's a pittance. Really, because like I know and you know how much effort and how much time goes into creating one track, let alone 10 tracks, let alone 20. Yeah. It's, these are days and hours and weeks of a person's life, if not more, right? Yeah. And, I just think it's, seeing as I have the financial capability, which, it's not like I'm trying to say that $20 is a lot of money, but, as a family man, I'll do what I can to support you. And I would hope that people would do the same for me. And I think that's kind of what we all aspire to as artists. I talk about this on the show from time to time because there's that line that they walk between selling out, as it were. But I'm like, why not do the career that you love?
Yep.
And get paid for it.
Totally.
Why not, right?
But,
yeah.
So. A lot of people put flack on Zed or, I hate to bring them up, but the Chainsmokers and all of them who started as like your electro or, Chainsmokers had Selfie. That was like their first big song. But they've gone the more pop route. Yeah. And a lot of the original fans, myself included, at the time when this was a big change for them in their careers, it was all this moment of, why are you changing? You're going to make pop music. Right. And at the time, of course, I was, a little flustered by that sort of stuff. But now in being more of an artist and realizing, hey, they're not selling out. Like they enjoy this more than they have before probably. And they're just taking the journey the same way that anyone else will.
There's nothing wrong with trying to go down different paths.
Totally. I agree.
It's like, I'm not going to just make drum and bass. I'm not just going to make house. I'm not like, how boring is that? I'm sorry about it. For some people that they love that. And I have no offense to them whatsoever. Like I absolutely, and sometimes that's why they're masters of it.
Yeah.
A lot of the time,
so true.
So, but at the same time, I'm just like, I just see so much more. It's like saying I only like the color green. You know what I mean? There's so many others in the rainbow. Oh man!
Right? Think in any other analogy, like, are you going to eat the same food every day for the rest of your life? Yeah. No, you got to try things. Yeah. Right? I mean, I think of someone like Mark Knight, or even. Maybe Deadmau5 to a lesser degree. Yeah. He's one of my favorites.
Tiesto's gone around a little bit too. Like he hasn't only done the same thing. He's very housey, don't get me wrong, but like, he's changed up his style quite a bit over the years from what I've seen. Like, and he was trance at one time and he goes back and forth between that with his music, And like there's lots of guys doing it now, and that's...
He's changed ghost producers a few times too.
Yes, this is true too. Yeah.
So
yes, this is true too.
But I didn't say that.
So do you remember what your first show was that you ever did?
My first show as Gremlyn, like as a show, not just DJing and playing music for people, was, I don't like to talk about it because of how horrible this show was. It was called Revolution, and this would have been 2014. And they wanted to make this a yearly thing here in Calgary. They started it small. I'm not going to mention his name because there were legal implications for him in this show. But I was approached by a company called Status, like status with a Z.
Oh,
really cool. Mm-hmm. Really cool stuff. And they're not even based in Calgary. Yeah, they're based out east, Ontario. Yeah. And they had connected with this guy who reached out to me and a few other artists, made a Facebook group chat essentially, and said, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make an indoor rave festival thing. Yeah. And it's going to be 2 days. One's a pre-party. The other one's going to be the full day. And he didn't have any of the right permits to charge tickets to have this happen.
I had something. That was what I'd almost forgotten about it till you just mentioned it. I had something very similar. Yeah. A friend of mine, he wanted to throw a party. He had access. I don't know if you remember. It's like it was called like Space Gym or something like that.
Space Gym.
It was over. Trying to think now, on the other side of Inglewood or something. God, I can't remember.
Space Gym.
Anyway. So it was this gym anyway, and he had access to the whole place, and beautiful venue, honestly. Like, and there's a workout gear in some spots that they had all covered and things. But then there's multiple rooms though where you could like set up a bar, and there's like stairs, and there was like, and he had like art displays from some people all put up. Ooh. But he didn't have speakers, he didn't have DJs, he didn't have like alcohol permits, he didn't have and he didn't advertise it at all. We're walking around, hey, you want to come to a party?
And did you have to sell tickets too?
Yes.
Oh yeah, same. Oh, full circle. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I haven't even finished talking about this thing, man. Go on. So I somehow sold out of tickets. I sold the most tickets out of anybody. I don't know how. Looking back at it, I don't know who wanted to come to this enough that they DM'd me on Instagram and said, I want tickets. Yeah. At the time I was working at Best Buy. I'm going to take a break, go stand outside and wait for this person to come pick up their tickets. So I sold tickets to this thing. I pumped it up. I was legitimately confident after talking to the other artists who also were doing the same thing I was. Yeah. I didn't know this guy. None of us did. And so we show up. We do the pre-party. It's, for anyone who's in Calgary, there's a somewhat industrial area, Flint Road. Okay. No, Horton Road. Horton Road. Bunch of warehouses in there, garage door warehouse styles. Yeah. This is what he called Flint and Steel. Yeah. And this was his trendy name for this garage warehouse that none of us had ever been to before. He's got car subwoofers, like 18-inch car subwoofers in an enclosure, and small, like Yorkville Long McQuaid speakers running it through amps that are underneath the table we're setting up our gear on. Yeah. So we're setting up. At the time, I had already worked events. I had known how professional setups look, and I had been working in weddings, shadowing under other DJs. So I'm like, at the time, I'm like, this is garbage. The sign down the road was made on two wooden slats stuck together with pieces of paper stapled on them that said Revolution 2014 Arrow. No promotion, no professional branding.
This is your promotion.
This is my promotional, and my name and my current branding were on the Facebook page for this. Yeah. So it all looked legit until I got there, set up. I threw an amazing set, I'll say now, considering the conditions. Got a bunch of, cracked out candy kids coming in there and, doing whatever drugs they brought with them. And this is part of the reason why this thing flopped so hard.
Oh, okay.
Because all it took was one noise complaint from a neighbor of one of the neighboring warehouse stalls. And cops show up one time.
Oh, geez.
They see this event is happening. They give him a warning. They're like, "Hey, we can't. You can't do this. You got to shut it down." Music stops for a bit. He gets one of the other DJs to play more music after the cop leaves.
Yeah.
And so I'm there, and there, a proud moment in this horrible show was that he played his set. Nobody liked his set, and they were calling me to go back up and make another set. And freestyle mixing, I was playing a bunch of dubstep, like heavy bass music, of course, music that, people who are fully wrapped in glow sticks and using whatever alcohol drugs they brought with them.
Yeah.
Cops show up a second time, like 2 cop cars. You gotta shut this down.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This can't happen. Okay. Nope. No, it went on again. And at this point, I'm packing down my gear. Someone else is taking over the music. Yeah, people didn't care at this point either. They were just like, they want music.
Yeah.
Cops show up a third time. Final time.
Yeah.
I would say I have a picture somewhere on my Instagram of the cop cars just scattered throughout this parking lot.
Wow.
There was an SUV. There was undercover cops there.
Oh, I'd say. And all these people strung out.
Oh, my goodness. And the worst part about it is that there were too many people there who were just so out of control that they couldn't, as far as I know, I mean, I left before everything got fully shut down. But this guy, who I won't mention his name, he got put in handcuffs and they took him away. Yeah. And everybody else who was there either left on their own, or if they were intoxicated or abusing any drugs, they were taken. Yeah. But they cracked down on this thing. I was lucky to get out of there. Thankfully, I didn't have any consumption or I don't use drugs, or I enjoy occasional beer or anything like that. But that wasn't where I was at. I was just a DJ. They recognized that, and they were like, "You should just get out of here. It's going to get ugly. You should go." So, Dad picks me up. I'm like, "All right, I'm going to go home now." Revolution 2014.
God, it's crazy, hey?
My goodness. Status events. Stay away from them.
Okay, sounds good. I'll keep that one in mind. Yeah. I noticed, like, you seem like you're kind of a quirky guy. I like that. I seen that Gremsicle video or whatever that you did. I got quite the kick out of that. No. Where does your funny come from? Is that in your family, or is it just you're just a funny guy?
I appreciate you saying that. I share a sense of humor with my dad. Yeah. My dad and I, if there's anything we bond on, it's humor. Yeah. Even after there was the divorce and everything that I had gone through in that, if there's one thing that brings us together when we're meeting now, it's humor. Mm-hmm. It's the sarcasm. It's all that. I don't look at myself and consider myself to be, a funny guy. Mm-hmm. I enjoy having conversations with people and banter and all that. But the quirkiness and all that, that's honestly just been... I don't know where it comes from. Yeah. I do not know.
Oh, that's good. That's
I embrace it.
Hey, and that's the thing. What's the best part of life is smiling and being happy. Yeah. I'm one of these guys, like, I have no problems laughing out loud. If I'm watching, I'm a big Family Guys nerd. But, and Family Guy is like one of these shows that either you're into that kind of humor or you're not, right? Yep. And my wife likes it to some extent. Sure. But it's just like, I'll just be dying laughing at something, right? And she just looks at me like, "What is wrong with you?"
There you go.
But I'm like, I'm not just going to be one of these people that even if I find it funny, I'm going to do my best to just
ha ha.
Right? Yeah. Like, why not laugh?
Contain. Right? Don't contain that. Yeah. I think there's a difference here for me. If I'm watching something on my own, if it's like genuinely hilarious, I will burst. I'll burst out laughing. Oh, but if it's just like a joke, like I'm a huge Office fan. Okay. I'm watching The Office and it's, one of the passing comments or, something that's the situational comedy of that show. It doesn't usually get an uproar of laughter.
Yeah,
but
I hear you.
if there's people with me, I'll laugh no matter what, for whatever reason. There's something like subconscious in my brain.
I don't know what it is. I got that same thing.
Yeah.
Like it's actually if I'm sitting by myself, it's funny the things that I don't laugh at that I would laugh at if I was around people. It's
Sure.
odd. I don't know. But anyway. So like when you're faced with like creative blocks and stuff when you're making your music, like you said that there's been releases since Isaac now, like you've had a couple more come out.
Yeah.
How do you go to the next place? Like how do you get past blocks and stuff like that?
Honestly, I've had a really good year of being consistent in my creative process, whether that's, I can't create something that resonates with me as a Gremlin project. Maybe I just spend some time making a beat
Okay.
that I can sell and, put food on my table.
Yeah.
Or maybe I use again, it's all using the same abilities and skill, but being able to channel that in a way that, I'm going to make something that I can sell for some company on Facebook to use in their promo video.
Yeah.
And then another YouTube channel to use it, like multiple licenses. So if I'm not feeling particularly creative enough to create a Gremlin project, most of my creativity can still be expressed in a generic, commercial project or making a beat. So again, part of continuing the process and avoiding blocks has been being around other creative people. I think even Skrillex said that.
Yeah.
You feel more inspired when you're with more creative people.
Yeah.
So for me, that's not just hanging out with DJs. That's hanging out with DJs. That's hanging out with some rappers, going to see some visual artists.
Well, this music conference that I'm down here for, so like the Alberta Electronic Music Conference that's going on in Calgary right now, it's been amazing because like one of the things that I've been saying about this show, and I love every guest that I've had on the show so far. Everybody's been excellent. Everybody's been very responsive to the whole thing, and it's gone very well so far as far as my opinion goes. But one of the things that I've been struggling with is that it's only been DJs. Like it's only DJs.
Sure.
And no female DJs. It's all been guys.
Gotcha.
And it's not that I'm not trying to get them on the show. It's just, they haven't been available or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But last night, even just in the few hours I was out, I made 6 different contacts.
Wow.
And there's one lady, Shelby, I can't remember her last name off the top of my head, but she works with an substance abuse group or whatever. Geez, I have to, now I'm...
They call it harm reduction, I think.
Harm reduction, yes, that's exactly what it is. Yes, but I'm trying to remember the name of it off the... Anyway, I spoke with her, and she said that she might be on the show as well.
Cool.
And I met an author from the UK who said that he'd be on the show, possibly even this week. So,
awesome.
It's... or not an author, sorry, he's a publisher and promoter anyway.
Cool, either way.
But absolutely. So I'm so glad that it's inspiring me and it's giving me opportunities to meet people that are into video and stuff too. Like there was a guy walking around the club taking pictures of everybody last night. I'm like, I gotta get your name. I gotta get your name. I gotta get... You know what I mean?
Man.
So it's definitely a asset to have something like this going on, and I'm so glad that it's in this community.
Yeah.
So are you happy with where you are in your musical journey so far? Or?
So far, yes.
Yeah?
That's the key term there.
Yeah.
So far. Moving forward, I've started setting goals, and then this is a Best Buy term in the programming. They call it a big, hairy, audacious goal. A BHAG. So I have my goals for the releases I'm putting. It just cracks me up still.
No, okay. I used to work for a company. They'd make you say juice every morning.
Juice.
Join us in creating energy. I'm like, right? Like, how lame.
I love it.
Anyway.
I love it, but I hate it.
Yeah, I know, right? It's
Best Buy in the morning was, they switched it. Our store number was 947.
Oh, okay.
So there was chance where we'd be like, 9, 4, 7. It just made no sense how many claps it was with the number. There were other ones that were, whatever generic Best Buy chant they could come up with, like a 90s thing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, so I set my goals for releases, and then I have big goals above that, and I'm like, and even at that, I feel like I could go as big as I want to on those goals because
there are no limits when it comes to music, though, really.
Especially nowadays, it takes as one algorithmic playlist or a curated playlist on like Spotify to pick your track in there, and then you're way over exceeding that regular goal. Yeah. So I have goals with what I want to do. I know where I want to get. Again, I mentioned I want to get better at scratching.
Do you write your goals down, or do you just have them in your head?
Project-wise goals go on my phone, my notes app. Love that. I can go on my computer, see it too. It's great. But as far as like personal development goals in my music, that's more of just an ongoing thing I have in the back of my mind. So I could write them down, but since it's just so important to me, it sits in my mind no matter what if I write it down or not.
Awesome. Well, like, so do you find it's difficult to balance everything you have going on in your life? Like, you've got you do have a lot going on for your social media, for your music releases, for like I say, it seems like you're a pretty busy guy. Do you have to like have a pretty rigid schedule for yourself, or how do you manage it all?
Well, this year's been an interesting one as well, of transitioning to being as self-employed as you could possibly be. So as far as scheduling goes, I would like to create a system where I can be like, okay, this day I'll do this day I'll do this, because between my company that I do DJ events like corporates, weddings, between those bookings, managing those, meeting with those clients, setting stuff up, seeing venues, or doing the gigs themselves, that takes up quite a bit of time. Doing the music side of things as well. Currently, if I have time to work on my own personal projects away from the stuff I'm producing for other artists, that's where that time goes. If I want to produce, I can still produce. I can still have that. There's just more of a work component to it than me being raw creative on my own stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
So I would like to set up a schedule. I'd like to be more organized. I value that a lot. But because of how hectic and busy things have been for me, in a good way, but also in a learning experience way, I'm learning as I go. What works for me as a self-employed, whether it be a contractor, whether it be producer, whether it be any of that stuff altogether. And teacher.
Well, it seems like you got a pretty good head on your shoulders, Bryce, and it seems like you really got things figured out for a guy 22 years old. I got to say, I'm really impressed. I wish I had half of the motivation and half of the skills and everything at my age now, even. And so, no, it's been a real honor having you on the show. Is there anything you'd like to promote? This will probably be coming out in December, so if there's
cool. By then I'll probably have an official release date for an EP I'm working on.
Okay.
It's called Memories. They'll be able to find more information on that on my Instagram. That's where I'm most active. I do have a Facebook page as well, but just based on the amount of attention I get, Instagram versus Facebook. At Gremlyn, Gremlyn music, all one word. That's the best platform to get a hold of me. Or Facebook, look for the white G. Gremlyn, same idea, at Gremlyn Music. SoundCloud's the same thing. Bandcamp, gremlyn.bandcamp.com. I could go off and spout all. I've tried to uniform all my links.
Like I say, I will be posting a artist profile for you on the website on twistedwaxrecords.com. So you can find any of his links there. Don't be afraid to check out the YouTube channel and the Mixcloud show for Chaotic Encounters. They're all there. It's been nothing but a pleasure, Gremlyn.
Thank you for having me on. This is a lot of fun.
Okay, bye. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Cool.